Mr. Mr. Hamilton, would you state your name and address, please, and spell it for the court reporter?
Mike Hamilton, MikeHamilton. I live in Dixon, at 161 East Chestnut in Dixon, California, 95620.
Mr. Hamilton, what is your occupation?
Well, I own Hamilton Smoke Opacity Testing since 1999, 2000.
Okay, and that means you conduct opacity testing?
That is correct.
Will you explain what opacity testing is to me and maybe to some members of the board?
Which probably everybody knows here, they have a truck or whatever. It's a metering. Opacity means a metering, measurements and stuff like that for the black soot coming out of the exhaust.
And what is the opacity testing designed to monitor or to test?
It's monitored of all the heavy particles, as I said, as one gentleman across from me stated, the black smoke coming out of the exhaust. It's more like an emission test, like a smog.
So are you testing for particulates in that exhaust?
Yes, I am.
And how many trucks have you tested?
In the last probably 10 years, I test anywhere from 15 to 2,000 trucks a year. I test anywhere from the cities, special districts, school districts, fire trucks, big companies, little companies. Probably a couple of my customers are here today.
All right. Does every trucker have to subject his truck to opacity testing?
No, they do not. Only if you own 2 or more trucks, you have to test. Me and Betty spoke about this I spoke to my other customers and stuff. I just came to put my input, since you guys are going to probably be talking to CARB, what I believe what they should do.
Has CARB ever used opacity testing?
Yes, they have.
And have you ever done any for CARB?
I have never done any for CARB. I've worked with CARB. They checked with some of my customers, which one of my trucks came up, one of my customers' trucks came up dirty on their meter, and I had to go retest it and see if it was their meter or if they were doing the job wrong or if I was doing the job wrong.
And what did you find out?
I was doing the job right.
Okay. All right. How could you just made the statement that this program could do the job that CARB needs done under the law. How could it do that? How could this program work without the restrictions that CARB has put on?
Well, I think CARB has a little too much restriction on these independent drivers and companies of 2 or more diesel trucks. I brought a few of my records. I took the names off, the company names off because they didn't ask for permission. I've spoke to Betty and some other people here. My thing is that CARB should do what the smog does. I have 3 things, if I may elaborate on it.
Please.
If the truck passes, it's good to go. If it doesn't pass, fix it. If you can't fix it, get rid of it. Meaning if CARB sets up from a pre-1991 55%, which I think is way too high, as I have some records here that I tested in 1982 with the Cummins in it, and the year of the engine's in 82. When I first tested it was 57%, which is way too high. So I'm a mechanic by trade. So that's how I got into this. I adjusted the fuel ratio and brought that unit down to 20.8%, which it beats by far. I've tested 97 Freightliners and Peterbilts, less than 20%. A lot of them less by 9%. My thing is, these companies have to spin out $100,000 plus a year for a new truck if you follow their program, which is a lot of money in everybody's pocket. I think CARB should bring up stricter measurements, meaning, as I said, 99 here, a Freightliner with a Detroit, 9%. I mean, I got 2,000 trucks, 2007s that kicks out 9%. Again, I've talked to people at CARB saying that, they want them all computer controlled. Well, I know a lot of people, and You guys out there, ladies and gentlemen, you probably know people have Power Strokes and Cummings and Duramax that if you put a chip in it, you're going to kick out 55%, 60%, 30% black smoke out of the exhaust. And this gentleman over here is smiling, he knows I'm right. The same thing with I did a demonstration a few years ago on a 2005 KW with a Cumming motor. I dropped my laptop, I redid the timing and everything in the computer. At first it was 0%. It was a 2007 Cummings. It was 0%. I went in with my laptop and I changed the value of the timing and everything. It kicked up well over 25%.
All right, and what do you, when you mention percent, tell the board, what do you, percent of what? What are you relating that to?
The percentage is the black smoke coming out of the exhaust.
Okay. And you're talking about soot particles.
That is correct.
Okay. When you mention those percentages, does CARB have a, would you explain what your percentages in bringing them down, how that relates to CARB's requirement? CARB's requirement is stated anything over 91, you get 40%. Anything less than 91, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, it's 55%. And on those age trucks where they have that requirement, is it your testimony that you've been able to get the percentage down below those on that age truck?
I've just adjusted a few of them. Most of them I haven't had to adjust. They just come up clean trucks.
And so,
I just stated that on some of the trucks I haven't adjusted, I haven't messed with the injection pump or the injectors or anything like that. They've been under 20% on the older truck.
So they would be acceptable under the CARB regulation?
That is correct.
And so instead of being scrapped, those trucks could continue to be used?
Most of those trucks are not scrapped. They're probably kicked over to another state or something that does not.
That's
but
what
yes,
I mean, yeah.
Scrapped.
Scrapped from California.
That's correct.
Okay. Members of the board, do you have questions of the witness?
Yes, sir. Did you just say that you could change the timing on a truck, and then that will affect the amount of black smoke, the soot coming out of it?
That is correct. I can take a Power Stroke, sir, and the regular computer, and put a chip inside the computer, and put another chip on the outside where the truck is only kicking 300 horses. I can make that Power Stroke kick out over 800 horses.
And it'll be a clean truck?
No.
No. But if you go the other way, I mean,
if you could put it back to stock, it'd be clean.
Yeah. So there's trucks on the highway. See, this is right back to what I said to the other individuals up here. CARB does what they want to do because they can get away with it at this point. And there are so many people being harmed in the state of California, and going to be all across the country because it's just starting here, that it's going to go all across the country. And we need to continue stopping and working to stop CARB, just as Dr. Dunn and Dr. Enstrom and the rest of them were speaking.
My last, one of my statements will think, I think CARB is necessary to do the emission test. I went to South Africa a year and a half ago, and we were out, when we got out in the boonies, it was nice and beautiful. In town, they had so much black smoke, and their diesel's not as clean as ours, and it was really, really nasty following a truck behind there. As everybody knows, the soot does settle to the ground, but you take how many drivers going down the highway, driving down it, it kicks it back up, and that's how you get all that. It's just like our scales. Why do we have scales? All you truck drivers know you got 80,000 pounds GDW on axles, 20,000, 12.5 or whatever. The reason is that you have to have, just like you have the smog test. I think their numbers, and they don't have to be hard to have these companies get rid of their older trucks because they're burning clean. That is why I'm here, is making this statement today on the behalf of my customers and hopefully helping some of these people out here. I think, yes, can we tighten up on the numbers? Yes, I do. I even mentioned this to Betty Plowman. Is the test needed? Yes, because None of us wants dirty trucks out there. It's kicking out 65%. Our agriculture, all these drivers, and I grew up in Dixon. My step-parents are Pedrick. We used to have trucks. And I remember the 262 Cummings, they were pigs, and we used to turn them up. I'm not going to lie to you. We probably was one of the biggest outlaws of this test, but back then, they'd be ragged tagging our trucks.
All right. One, I want to be sure that I understand. You believe that it is necessary to have emission testing or testing in order to require the trucks to run cleaner.
That is true.
But you believe that using the opacity testing, the program could run better from the standpoint of the trucking industry, keeping more trucks in operation, costing less to the transportation or to the truck drivers and to the trucking industry by using opacity testing rather than the computerized testing that CARB requires.
Yes.
And you believe that the percentages that they have required are too high
That is correct.
to have clean air and to have effectively operating trucks.
That's correct. I think they could tighten up the percentages.
All right. Any other questions now from the board?
Just two quick ones, please. You said 15 to 2,000 trucks. Is that 1,500 to 2,000?
Yeah, that's 1,500 trucks, 2,000 trucks a year.
Okay.
Depends if the company buy new trucks, they don't have to be tested for 4 years.
Okay. And second question, you said regarding the chip that you can put in your testing unit. Can CARB do that with theirs too?
I'm just a dumb mechanic, man. It's just, if I can change the values of it inside of a computer of a truck, I'm sure somebody who has a lot more experience than me can do it way faster and way easier.
Just wanted to ask. Okay.
And if anybody else has already asked this question, I apologize to everybody here. My question is, of all the thousands of trucks that travel up and down the corridor here daily, all the trucks that are from out of state that carry the exempt plate, are any of those trucks required to go through the same level of testing as all the local trucks that we have here in California owned by local California businesses?
The opacity test is in other states too. Nevada has a testing that you don't have to test annually like these California people do. If you get caught up there, you automatically get a fine, or they could give you a fine in Nevada. Oregon has it. Arizona has this testing. Back east, these tests are back east too. I don't have because when I first got into doing this, I thought this was a bogus deal until I started seeing some of the trucks, how dirty they are. One thing about this testing does, and I do work in the city of Vacaville and stuff. I won't mention who because you, Mayor, I don't want you to go after him. No, I'm just. The test is good because it keeps their preventive maintenance up. I remember years ago, my stepfather, Wilbur Pedrick, we barely changed oil in our trucks. I mean, we might do it once a year if we're lucky. Now, these guys, the multi-grade oil, they're doing tune-ups on them, meaning adjusting the valves, making sure you have clean fuel. All that plays a factor in it being a clean truck. You burn dirty fuel, you're going to probably take your injectors out, your pump out. These parts are so expensive on these trucks.
I know I have one. I've got not a big truck. I've got the F-250.
So you're one of those outlaws that has a chip then, right?
No chip. No, perfectly legal over here. But I guess, so my question is there a standard of regulation nationwide, and are all trucks held to that standard? Or it sounds like, from what you're telling me, that it is not the case, and that there are regulations, but they differ state to state, and that any of these trucks that are not from California may or may not meet the California standard, although they do meet some type of standard.
The only way they'll get caught if CARB is at the scales and they got a dirty truck. They'll shut them down and turn them around.
Okay.
But there's other state, as I testified, there is other state has a program like California.
But
But one follow-up question. There's no other state that has the CARB standards and regulation.
I wouldn't know about their percentage. Thank you.
No, sir. Thank you, sir, for your testimony.
Mr. Henry, for coming.